You know the feeling. We've all been there, right? You're standing there, key in hand, staring at a simple little padlock that has suddenly decided it's going to be Fort Knox. It doesn't matter if it's on your shed, a storage unit, or your toolbox, that tiny lock is now a huge problem. So in this explainer, we're going to turn that panic into a solid plan.
It's that sinking feeling, isn't it? That first little jiggle of the key that just doesn't work. And then it turns into a full-on wrestle. Maybe the combination feels jammed. And just like that, you're totally cut off. It's got to be one of the most common and, let's be honest, infuriating problems out there.
And what starts as just a tiny little inconvenience can blow up into a real crisis pretty fast. You need what's inside, but this little piece of metal is just stubbornly standing in your way. But before you go reaching for the bolt cutters, just hold on. There are smarter and way safer ways to solve this.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start by talking about that initial moment of frustration. Then we'll get into the quick and easy fixes. After that, we'll learn how to figure out what kind of lock you're dealing with, explore some, let's call them DIY last resorts, and then figure out when it's time to call in the pros. And finally, we'll talk about how to lock smarter so this, hopefully, never happens to you again.
All right, section 1. Let's talk about that gut punch moment when you realize you're locked out. It is so easy to panic, but really, the key here is to just take a breath and be methodical about it. We're going to walk through this logically, and we're going to turn that panic into a real, concrete plan.
Now for the basics. Before you just assume the lock is a total lost cause, let's try the simplest, non-destructive stuff first. Honestly, you would be so surprised how often the fix is incredibly simple and doesn't require any force at all. You might just save yourself a whole lot of trouble.
Okay, have a look at these 2 steps because they are shockingly effective. First up, give it a good clean. Dust, dirt, even a little bit of rust, they just love to jam up those tiny internal pins. A quick shot of compressed air or even a little bit of lubricant can be an absolute game changer. Second, try to release the tension. Gently wiggle the shackle, the U-shaped bar, while you turn the key. That simple little motion can be all it takes to get things moving again.
So what if those simple fixes didn't do the trick? Well, it's time for a new strategy. Your next move depends completely on the type of padlock you're up against. As you're about to see, knowing your enemy is half the battle.
The trick here is just matching the problem to the lock. So if you've got a standard keyed lock, the first thing you do is check the key itself. Is it bent? Is it worn out? If you have a spare, try that. For a combination lock, it is almost always about the alignment. Make absolutely sure those dials are perfectly lined up. And if your lock has been living outside, rust is probably your enemy. A little bit of penetrating oil and a few gentle taps with a rubber mallet can work wonders to break it free. Okay, we've tried all the gentle options. Now we're heading into more, let's say, forceful territory. And I have to be really clear here. These methods are for emergencies, and only on property you legally own. This is not a drill, folks.
Let me be absolutely crystal clear. The moment you take one of these next steps, you are almost certainly destroying that lock for good. Seriously, this is the point of no return.
You've basically got 3 destructive options, and they range from surgical to sledgehammer. First, you can try shimming it. You can slide a thin piece of metal into some of the cheaper models to just bypass the latch. Second, you could pick it. If you've got the tools and, the skill, you can try to manipulate the pins, but again, only on your own lock. And finally, there's the brute force method. Just cut it. A good pair of bolt cutters will slice right through most standard shackles, unless you're up against a hardened steel anti-cut model. So, after all of that, there is one more path to consider. And you know what? It's often the smartest and safest one. Calling a professional. Look, this isn't admitting defeat, it's making a strategic choice to protect your property.
And this slide right here really captures the whole dilemma. If you go the DIY route on a high-security lock, you risk damaging not just the lock, but the gate or the door or the expensive chain it's attached to. A licensed locksmith, on the other hand, has the tools and the expertise to often open the lock without leaving a scratch, saving you money and a major headache in the long run. Okay, so once you're finally back in, our job here isn't done. The final and maybe the most important step is making sure this never happens again. Let's talk about how to lock smarter from here on out. This advice comes straight from the professionals, and it is pure gold. Don't just reuse that same old lock. It's time to upgrade. Go invest in a weather-resistant model, something with a hardened steel shackle that basically just laughs at bolt cutters. And just as important,
Write down your spare key info and stash it somewhere safe that you won't forget.
So that leaves us with one final and pretty crucial thought. That really frustrating moment with a stuck lock, it might actually be more than just an inconvenience. It could be a wake-up call. It kind of forces you to look beyond simple access and think about your overall security. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Is your security truly ready for an upgrade?